Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very good morning. My name is Amira Shazmin Amir, binti Amir. I'm from Sekolah Kebangsaan Putra Kangar Perlis. Today I'll be presenting my actual research on YouTube educational channels and video podcasts and their impacts on ESL, English Second Language, listening comprehension skills. So this is the abstract that I have written here. Listening comprehension is an important language skills in second language learning. In the context of Malaysian primary education, listening comprehension is considered as one of the most difficult language skills to learn. Why? This is because of they are having lack of several factors that may affect their listening skills. Moreover, teachers also need to diversify their teaching practices, and this is why I came up with this kind of innovation to help to cater this kind of problems among primary school pupils. Therefore, this study explores the factors that affect the listening comprehension and to what extent the teaching of listening comprehension skills can utilize Web 2.0 tools, namely YouTube educational channels and video podcasts. These are the two Web 2.0 tools that I've used to cater the problems of listening comprehension skills among the young learners. So this study, I employs mixed method study involving 40 primary year 4 pupils from a cluster school in Perlis, and this study examines a PET sample t-test which I run through SSPS, and also teachers reflection, focus group observation and focus group interview with pupils by adopting the action research framework. The data was analyzed by using SPSS version 25, and the findings of these studies revealed positive outcomes whereby YouTube educational channels and video podcasts has positive significant impact on listening comprehension skills of primary year 4 pupils. Okay, so this is basically the introduction of this innovation and also this research. First is young learners' vocabulary in second language is very limited. This is based on my studies. For example, what I have noticed from this kind of problems is because they have lack of vocabulary, such as unknown words that come to that is being introduced to the text, and also weird pronunciation. We called it as weird pronunciation because to the pupils in Malaysia, probably English could be their second language, and some of the pupils may have English language as their foreign language. So this is why it becomes weird pronunciation to them, and also the slang, whereby American English and also British English, and reduced form are among the major problems in the listening comprehension skill. Reduced form is like, for example, wanna, gonna. So this kind of reduced form may somehow influence the listening comprehension skills among the pupils. Number 2 is neglecting the teaching of listening comprehension skill in schools attribute to lack amount of vocabulary being exposed to the young learners. Thankfully, we have the syllabus of CEFR whereby we emphasize on listening comprehension skills also, but somehow it is still need to be instilled in everyday lesson according to the what we call is learning standards and also content standards. We have to teach them listening comprehension skills. Otherwise, they will have this kind of problems again arise in the next future. So based on my studies by Ibrahim et al. 2013 revealed that the vocabulary knowledge of the young learners are still below the average level. So this is Ibrahim et al. Is from Qatar, if I'm not mistaken, or from the Middle East. So it is more similarly like in our situation in Malaysia, whereby English is as the second language and also foreign language. That is why we have average level of vocabulary knowledge. Number 3 is listening anxiety can affect the listening performance. What does it mean by the anxiety is when the pupils hear or listen to the English language itself, they become frightened, they become scared and lack of confidence because the words are not familiar to them. So for instance, young learners often feel fear and nervous when looking at the lengthy text. So looking at the lengthy text itself can cause them to have that kind of anxiety. What more, with no visualization provided to them because of the listening. So we are not giving them, I'm not giving them the video yet, I'm just giving them the audio itself. So therefore, YouTube educational channel and video podcast attempts to reduce listening anxiety to the young learners by providing them with sufficient information through the presentation of colorful visual. So what I did was to introduce them with the audio first, and then audio with the text, and then I noticed that the improvement is not that much. So I introduced them to the YouTube educational channel and also video podcast, just to see whether the visualization helps them with the audio part. And number 4 is upset, confused, intimidated, and bothered are among the variables that may affect listening anxiety. So these are the studies conducted by several researchers out there, China and also probably in India and also in Middle East. Okay, moving on to the next slide. These are the channels that I have introduced to my pupils. British Council Learn English Kids channel, English Sing Sing channel or my English channel, Wow English TV channel, and also one from the video podcast by the British Council. So from the British Council website itself, it provides the teachers with a variety of level. For example, like A1, A2, B1, B2. So for your information, A1, A2 is for the primary level pupils, whereby for English teachers, we should get within the range of C1 and C2 level. Okay. This is the literature review to support my study and also to support the innovation. So there are 2 theories that I use in this study. The first one is the CTML, Cognitive Theory of Multimedia Learning, whereby it supports YouTube and video podcast as a platform for education through presentation and process of delivering knowledge to the pupils, which can either be done in auditory or verbal or visual and pictorial. So it can be both, whether it can be audio only, audio with the visual, or visual only. So this kind of theory will somehow opens the door for the teachers or researchers to see whether the video or the audio itself more effective to the pupils' learning or not. And then the second one is social constructivism theory that I use to support collaborative learning, whereby it highlights how learning takes place when pupils are involved in discussion and collaboration among their peers. What I did was, I tried to give them with the activities and the tasks for them to do it alone, and it turned out it doesn't turn out that well, whereby they still couldn't understand the language and also the task given. So I introduced them to this kind of group work, and also just to see whether social constructivism theory works in my classroom or not. The next thing is YouTube educational channel helps to support the blended learning pedagogy approach to promote language learning amongst the pupils. So this one is what I did was a blended learning between the hard copy version of exercises, and also the things are being provided to them through quizzes in the British Council. So there are several types of learning nowadays. What is now is being focused on the hybrid learning itself. I'm currently doing on hybrid learning. It's not yet done, but inshallah soon I will try my best to reveal that. And also it proposes easy access to language learning videos and instruction all around the world. Yeah, this is very simple because everyone who has the internet can get access to this kind of innovation. So the next thing is that the use of video podcasts in language learning helps to improve pupils' engagement. This is what we want. We want the pupils to get engaged with the lesson so that they can understand better. And also learning becomes a lot more fun. Yeah? And also a video podcast in language learning can bring real atmosphere into the classroom and able to expose the pupils to the target language and also the culture. Because over here in Malaysia we have several cultures, but it's not totally around the British or American culture. So by bringing in things like YouTube and also video podcast, at least we can expose them to the culture of learning English as second language or foreign language to them. So listening comprehension skill is an element in English language learning and described as an active process that involves the learners to form meaning from the spoken language. We want them to be able to form meaning instead of just listen, but they are able to comprehend the language so that they can understand it. Listening comprehension skill is explained as the process of understanding the language spoken, grammatical structures, and the ability to differentiate sounds of the language, which can help develop good listening comprehension skills. Okay, so these are some other things that I have done, which reveal that sometimes, that most of the times, the use of technology to cater this problem somehow effective towards the pupils, especially the young learners. So looking at this, failure in comprehending the language, can trigger anxiety because lack of understanding towards the language learned. So somehow this is correlating to each other. When pupils do not understand the language, they become nervous. because they don't understand the language. So when they become nervous and the anxiety arises, they couldn't comprehend even more skills next, like for example writing skill, reading skills, listening skills, and even grammar skills. So because of this anxiety, we want to cater to this problem so that we can lower down the anxiety so that the comprehension level is going to be higher than before. So there are some ways to elevate listening anxiety, which are familiarization, whereby we give them text and always do repetition. This is what happened previously during our time, whereby teachers always use familiarization techniques for us, just to read and read and read so that we become familiar with the words. Repetition and be supportive to the learners. This is very important. So listening anxiety often leads to problem in second language learning, be it in listening comprehension skills, grammar skill, reading skills, or other skills like writing skills. Also listening, whatever anxiety can contribute to this kind of factors, problems to this kind of classroom. Okay, so mainly this is my innovation or research objectives. First is to investigate the factors. What are the factors that contribute to low listening comprehension skills among primary year 4 ESL young learners? And the second one is to study the impact of YouTube educational channel and video podcast on listening comprehension skill among primary year 4 ESL young learners. So the research questions, I've came out with two research questions. First is what are the factors contribute to low listening comprehension level, and also number two is to what extent did the use of YouTube educational channel and video podcast enhance primary year 4 pupils listening skill. So what I mean with to what extent, whether it is effective or not, and how effective it can be used to other language skills rather than just focusing on the listening comprehension itself. So I've came out with two research hypotheses. First is there is no significant impact, meaning that this is somehow my kind of hypothesis, whether I personally think that maybe YouTube educational channel and video podcast may not have significant impact. So I've came up with this kind of hypothesis. Skills in the pre-test and post-test among primary ESL young learners. This is just a hypothesis. Once the innovation is being conducted, then only we can see whether it is effective or not. So another hypothesis is there is a significant impact between YouTube educational channel and video podcast on listening comprehension skills in the pre-test and post-test among the primary ESL young learners. So I hold on to these two hypotheses and want to see whether which one is the outcomes of this innovation. So this is the action research design. I've came up with 3 phases, and also one towards the end is the evaluation. First of all, what I did was the pilot test. Pilot test is just giving them the worksheets and see whether my topic or the skills that I'm going to focus, which is on the listening comprehension skill, is on the right track, or I should just do some amendments. Yeah, but then I came up with the phase 1. So I introduced them to play audio only with 2 short stories, and then peoples are being tested individually. So and then I did a focus group interview and also some teachers reflection. This is a must for all of us. Will do teachers reflection towards the end of the lesson. So another thing, once I've completed with the phase 1, I've came out with the phase 2. So phase 2 and phase 3 is when I did the intervention, the innovation by integrating YouTube in educational channels and also video podcast into the lesson. So this is when I introduced them to the audio only, and here is audio and video. And phase 3, what I did was video and audio, including video podcast. So it's another Web 2.0 tools that I use in the phase 3. So towards the end, I've gotten the evaluation. The evaluation is through the post-test and a focus group interview. Okay. So basically, the design is actual research design, whereby I came out with a problem and then I came out with an intervention or innovation to cater this kind of problems. So the population is 350 students of Putra Cluster School in Perlis. The sample is only 40 primary ESL pupils aged 10 years old from Putra Cluster School in Perlis are selected through purposive sampling. So I purposely choose them. Yeah, I purposely choose them. And instruments are this, pre-test, semi-structured interview, observation and teachers reflection, just to see whether the things is effective to them or not. So I did 2 pilot testing by integrating, by downloading worksheets from the British Council, and I do some of the what I call is innovate, and also just some editings to do with the worksheets, just to see whether it suits my pupils or not. So I gave that kind of pilot test to two of my colleagues over there in Putra. There are 2 expert panels, and also the pre-test and post-test questions were adapted from the British Council, adapted and adopted. So some of them I adopt, but some of them, majority of them I adapted just to cater the needs of my pupils at the moment. Okay, so this is the pre-test result. I do not use the real name as to protect the secrecy of the the pupils. So I just use their name, fake name. Okay, Noah, Liam, just like that. Okay, so this is the pre-test score. As you can see, the highest is only like 60 something. It's not even 70. So this one will be sent out as a soft copy, so you might see it later on. And also this is the test that I run through SPSS, whereby I get the significant impact 0.000. Okay, so the result analysis is there was statistically significant increase in listening comprehension score between pre-test and post-test, and the result is that I am able to reject the null hypothesis, meaning that I can reject that YouTube is not effective to the pupils. So what I did was to accept another hypothesis that I did was the pupils' listening comprehension achievement become higher when using YouTube educational channel and video podcast. There are differences between pre-test and the post-test of the pupils. And then the next thing is I did was on the focus group observation, just to see by using audio only and also by using audio and video whether to observe them whether their pupils, the participations in the classroom becomes better, understanding better, and the speech speed increases, and also pupils' team spirit, and also increase in interest. This is what I want them to be able to grab towards the end of the innovations. So what I did was, this is the pre-observation data. As you can see, there are some errors done by the pupils because this is given audio only. Okay, unlike the upper part, still some errors done to the lesson, to the worksheets, because of the lack in vocabulary. Yeah, as you can see, this is not stone, but they wrote it as stone. Yeah, because of lack in vocabulary, and also what more of sequencing the storyline, because they are not familiar with the words, and also they do not see the visual given to them, because this is pre-observation data. Okay. Next is post-observation data. Is what I did was to introduce them with the audio and also with the video. And to make it more effective, I tried to create an innovation of coming out with a big book, yeah, for them to sequence the story in through using big books. So they have to produce their creativity, to put their creativity in line so that they can produce a big book, and also to rearrange the storylines and produce a meaningful story. So this is the kind of big book that they have done. There are several more, but I just put one, and also I just blank their names. This is their group name, yeah, their group names, and this is the story why Anansi has thin legs. Before this, I've given them this story for them to listen as well as to watch. And towards the end, they have to come up with a big book and sequencing the story, and also write their opinions and also their understandings towards the lesson given to them. So this is the thematic analysis, and these are the 6 factors affecting listening comprehension skills. First is unfamiliar storyline. They are not familiar with the story. Why Anansi has thin legs? I believe not many people out there know the story unless you are you watch YouTube or other educational channels in YouTube's. But of course, why Anansi has thin legs, sometimes it's not that familiar storyline unless you give stories to the pupils like si tanggang, bawang merah, bawang putih, because this is part in our culture. That is why the pupils understand, because it is in the story is in our culture. But unlike what I gave to them is not similar to our culture at all. So this is one of the factors, unfamiliar storyline. The next one is lack vocabulary. Lack in vocabulary, of course, they do not understand certain words given. Speech and speed. So the storyline, the storyteller in the story, they do not use the speech or speed for like us, second language speaker. So they are the first language speaker, their mother tongue. So of course they speak like how we speak Bahasa Melayu. So these are the factors affecting listening comprehension skills too. The next thing is noise. Of course, when I conduct the lesson, sometimes it becomes the difference of recess time between lower primary and also upper primary. So whenever the lower primary came across the classroom and just scream, running around the hall, so it becomes a noise, it triggers the anxiety. Okay, and also slang and listening anxiety. So the findings is majority of the pupils in the classroom could not score high marks in the pretest and range between 30% to 66 only. So through focus group interview reveals that 6 factors, just like what I've told just now, are unfamiliar storyline, lack in vocabulary, speech, speed, noise, technical aspect. Unfamiliar storyline, and majority of the pupils mentioned that the slang is different. Of course, the slang is different, and the pre-observation indicated that there was a need to improve the way lessons were conducted. 2 samples of pre-observation managed to provide some insights for the researcher to give token of appreciation towards the people and crucial in order to develop their motivation. Because of what they do not understand, so I have to come up with another thing is to provide them with a token of appreciation, like giving them sweets or what, so that they will be able to participate in the lesson better. Okay, so the impact of post-observations towards the study is meaningful because it presents the patterns of people participation based on the theory just now, and also the findings from the interview data reported that 100% of the pupils like the use of YouTube educational channel and video podcast in the listening comprehension lesson. So teachers' reflection, my reflection reveals that before the use of YouTube educational channel and the video podcast, majority of the pupils are not participating actively in the lesson. They look confused because they can barely understand the listening text. This could be due to speed, lack of prior knowledge. So teachers decided to do pre-reading before she plays the story to the pupils as to develop the confidence level during the listening lesson and to avoid boredom. Yeah, because when they are not interested with the lesson, of course they feel bored. So how I did is just to give them the pre-reading, so to avoid the boredom throughout the process of teaching and learning. So this is basically the discussion and the conclusion. Qualitatively, the findings of the group observation reveals a positive impacts from YouTube and also video podcast towards the listening comprehension skills. And the theory of social constructivism has supported the findings of the studies that pupils learn and understand better when they do group works. Yeah, of course, the pupils feel scared and nervous when listening to other language. For example, English language might be foreign to them. So working with other group members might somehow help them to release their stress and also to integrate in the lesson. And the interest towards the language increase the level of engagement. Of course, they become more engaged towards the lesson and their attitude, and reduce the anxiety towards the listening text. YouTube educational channel and video podcasts are used in this study. So basically, this is the publication that I've tried my best to publish, and Alhamdulillah, last year I managed to publish it with my lecturer in UUM in the International Journal of Information Management last year. So you can just download that URL and just have a look at how I conducted the innovation and also what we did to cater the problems of listening comprehension skills among the young learners. And also, last but not least, this is the quote of the day: learning and innovation go hand in hand. The arrogance of success is to think what you did yesterday will be sufficient for tomorrow. I personally think that it will never be enough. Okay, it will never be enough. There are more innovations to come, more and more and more. Right, for the next future. So I believe that all of us can do it. And with that, I would like to end my presentation for today. Thank you so much for watching. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.